high definition from the CBS4 studios. This is CBS4 at 10.
Tonight, investigators are continuing to learn more about the man who opened fire in Dallas at a Black Lives Matter protest, killing 5 police officers there. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shelton Dotson. Patty will return on Monday.
We got a guy with a long rifle. We don't know where the hell he's at.
That is part of what unfolded after police say 25-year-old Micah Johnson used an AR-15 assault rifle during last night's attack. The ambush sent screaming crowds scrambling for cover. Johnson is described by some to be a loner. He's a former Army reservist who did one tour in Afghanistan. Law enforcement officials say he wore body armor during the attack. The Dallas police chief is now saying that Johnson acted alone.
The suspect said he was upset at white people. The suspect stated he wanted to kill white people, especially white officers.
We believe now that the city is safe and the suspect is dead, and we can move on to healing.
President Obama called the shootings vicious, calculated, and despicable. He is now cutting short his European trip and is expected to visit Dallas early next week. Law enforcement leaders from all over Texas and the borderland are expressing their grief and support today. CBS4 10's Courtney Shoneman spoke with the chief of the El Paso Police Department, who had some harsh words for the Black Lives Matter movement.
El Paso Police Chief Greg Allen said Black Lives Matter is a radical hate group, and he said the group is directly to blame for the deadly ambush of 5 officers in Dallas. At a news conference earlier today, several county and city officials stood in solidarity with the fallen police officers in Dallas. But when asked if he had anything to say, El Paso Police Chief Greg Allen chose to remain silent.
If y'all want to join, Chief, please come on over here.
After the news conference, I caught up to Chief Allen to ask him about whether the tragic events in Dallas will impact local police policies. Here's how it went. Does the El Paso Police Department have, I'm a reporter with CBS4 Local and KFOX 14, does the El Paso Police Department have any plan to possibly start doubling up?
We've been doubling up.
Okay, when did that start?
When an officer Garcia got shot about 2 years ago.
Okay, how long do you foresee that continuing? I know that
we're going to continue it until we feel comfortable about it.
The Dallas Police Department was able to kill the gunman by using a remote-controlled bomb squad robot, a first for any police department in the country. The El Paso Police Department has one of those robots. Also, I know that the Dallas Police Department used a robot for the first time ever to...
You'll have to take that over to the Dallas Police Department.
But we also asked the chief if he had a message for his officers this morning.
That's between myself and my officers.
Then I asked Chief Allen about a planned vigil in El Paso by the local members of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Black Lives Matter, as far as I'm concerned, is a radical hate group. And for that purpose alone, I think the leadership of this country needs to look a little bit harder at that particular group. The consequences of what we saw in Dallas is due to their efforts.
Former El Paso Police Chief and current El Paso County Sheriff Richard Wiles disagreed with Allen's assessment of the Black Lives Matter movement.
That Black Lives Matter is a radical group? Right. No, that's not my belief.
Chief Allen didn't elaborate on what he meant when he said the country's leaders should take a second look at this group. He stopped answering questions, but I did get to ask him if he thought yesterday's tragedy in Dallas would change the way his department operates. He said no. Reporting in Central El Paso, Courtney Shoneman, CBS4 at 10.
As Courtney showed us, the El Paso leadership stood side by side at the courthouse today to express their condolences for those Dallas police officers. It was as much a display of unity as it was a moment of mourning. CBS4 10's Megan Lopez brings us their powerful message.
We are really shocked and saddened by the assassination of 5 Dallas police officers.
Needless waste of life and incredible carnage and tragedy.
And our hearts go out to those officers and civilians who were injured and murdered.
I want them to know that El Paso is with them.
When tragedy rips a hole in the heart of our country, it's human nature to sympathize.
You feel for those that go out there every day and do a very difficult job.
Human nature to rationalize.
I think anybody who decides to go gun down police officers in that fashion probably has some mental health issues as well.
And human nature to feel a range of emotions as we try to come to terms with what happened. From anger.
There is no explanation. There can be no excuse.
To sorrow.
You walk out the door and there's no guarantee that you're coming back.
To fear.
Today, when I left my house, I got an extra kiss and a hug from my wife because she was worried of what would happen today.
So many words to describe such a horrific loss of life. But when the words stop and the silence begins.
It's so difficult to find the right words.
That is when true change happens.
We recognize that we have to work together with the community for all of us to be safe.
Because these El Paso leaders know that sometimes the answer isn't what we say, but how we listen to the other side.
I think there is a need for introspection in our country.
We have to sit down and listen and communicate about problems.
There are a lot of issues that we have to address, but I think hopefully at a time like this, it gives us that pause to realize it's much easier for us to come together than to pull further apart.
Megan Lopez, CBS4 at 10.
To a person, the officials at today's press conference say it's important for law enforcement to reflect the community it serves and to listen to the community's complaints. They also expressed their sorrow for Alton Sterling and Philando Castillo. Those are the two black men shot and killed by police officers earlier this week. Las Cruces Police Chief Jaime Montoya also addressed the Dallas massacre today. He says his officers are in mourning and in disbelief. Montoya also spoke of the shooting deaths of Sterling and Castillo. He says encounters between police and citizens are not like they used to be many years ago, and now he urges his officers to keep cool heads.
Things have changed. Society has changed and technology has changed, and we as law enforcement have to change with that. So there has been a change in society with that respect factor, because before when we used to say stop and put it down, they would, but now they don't. So we have to realize that and be more patient.
Chief Montoya also warned his officers to remain vigilant in case of a possible copycat attack. The Texas Department of Public Safety issued a statement regarding the shooting. It reads in parts, as a law enforcement agency, when any peace officer dies in the line of duty, we all lose a comrade and a member of our family. New Mexico Senior Senator Tom Udall writes, we've seen too many days and nights of violence, too much of which appears to have been driven by distrust, fear, or hatred. We must come together to confront these issues that are dividing us and work together to heal. New tonight, we are learning more about that suspect who murdered those 5 police officers. Investigators say they found bomb-making materials in the home that Micah Johnson shared with his mother in the Dallas suburb of Mesquite. Police also found ballistic vests, rifles, ammunition, and a book of combat tactics. Investigators say Johnson was not part of any terror group. His childhood friend says Johnson had a normal childhood.
He just looked like a normal kid. We went to the same barber shop. He got the same haircut by the same barber that I go to. I just talked to the barber also. He's shocked. I mean, everybody just, it's unbelievable.
Investigators say the materials found indicate that Johnson had carefully plotted this ambush. This attack is also hitting close to home for the leader of the El Paso Catholic Diocese. Bishop Mark Seiss spent 40 years in Dallas. He now says it is time to have a serious talk about guns in the United States.
Years past, all the nations of the world recognized that it was not a good thing to be aiming nuclear weapons at each other. The same is true, I think, when we talk about the number of weapons that proliferate in our community.
Seiss believes more weapons available to the public only increases the chance of them being used against innocent people. Parents may be wondering what to tell their children about the shooting in Dallas. CBS4 spoke with a child therapist today. Elisa Dobler is with the El Paso Child Guidance Center. She says the worst thing you could do is to ignore what happened. Dobler says it is good for parents to talk about these incidents with their children, but do it sparingly. She says they probably already have an idea of what's going on. Even worse, she says they could get misinformation from some of their friends.
Reality is kids are going to know. They talk to other kids. They have access to TV and radio. They do know stuff. So that's why it's important for you to communicate with them.
Dobler says you especially need to give your teenagers a chance to voice their opinions. We have spent the past 10 minutes on this newscast telling you what happened. There are many people out there who will tell you why they think it happened. But what's most important is, how do we make this stop? As CBS 410's Thomas Hoppo shows us, that answer must start with a simple, civil conversation.
Told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand out.
When they started trying to push him against the car, what did I do wrong? What's going on?
The suspect stated he wanted to kill white people, especially white officers.
When do we start to talk?
Yeah, right downtown. This morning's events spawned off of the car shootings and stuff. It's really unfortunate that they keep happening.
You know, I don't know if it's off a race or if it's just, you know, it's hard to tell nowadays.
That's the only way they would be able to get past it, is talking about it and exposing it.
When do we start to listen?
I would say some. I wouldn't say all, because there's always somebody who's gonna hate somebody because they have something, they're different than them in some way.
It's hard being, you know, targeted or feeling like you could be targeted just as easy as anybody else.
Like, being a black man, you know, people are always gonna be like, oh, what do you think, what do you think? And it's just like, in some cases, it's scary because you don't know if somebody is gonna come after you because of race.
Every officer, the community also needs to know that every officer is not out here trying, you know, to jack somebody up or plant something on somebody. Some guys are just doing their job and trying to keep society safe.
When do we start to care?
It's not all cops. We're very thankful for that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
For your service.
Thank you, thank you.
Instead of being so, you know, angry or agitated, kind of, you know, understand their situation and handle it with a little bit more poise, and maybe it wouldn't escalate to that level.
For them.
But I think with knowledge, you learn to love.
But, you know, some sides are very hot, or like very heated and very hot on a topic where you're taking one side or the other versus somebody actually just sitting down and discussing like we do, so.
It's now. Thomas Hoppo, CBS 4 at 10.
A lot to think about. CBS4Local.com is dedicated to bringing you the complete coverage of the Dallas police shootings. On our website, we have posted the entire press conference from the city and county this afternoon. You'll also find profiles of all available that we know about the fallen officers. You can also see videos and pictures from the scene in downtown Dallas. That and so much more, including Thomas Hoppo's extraordinary piece, which you just watched. You'll find that on CBS4Local.com. Just ahead tonight on Money Sense, the potential deal that could make it easier for you to watch live sports on social media. It happens. The unusual play made by the White Sox tonight. And they're open for the weekend. The special event you can attend tomorrow if you need a new or need to renew your passport.
Lightning strikes in the borderland. What cities are getting a light show this evening is coming up on CBS 4 at 10.